We all try to influence others in our daily lives. We're all marketers, whether you're a manager motivating your team, an employee making a big presentation, activist staging a protest, or a teacher trying to encourage your students, or like many that are listening to this episode, an entrepreneur trying to build a brand. In today's episode, I have the great privilege and honor of speaking to the head of strategy at one of the biggest agencies and most successful agencies in the world. And we talk about how understanding culture can give you a unique and powerful insight into the reasons why people behave the way that they do. You're listening to the Brand Gravity Show. I'm your host, psychology-driven brand strategist, Kaye Putnam. Thank you so much for being here. My guest today, Dr. Marcus Collins, is the author of the new book, For the Culture, The Power Behind What We Buy, What We Do, and Who We Want to Be, which was just released. He argues that true cultural engagement is one of the most powerful vehicles for influencing behavior. Dr. Marcus Collins is an award-winning marketer and cultural translator with one foot in the world of practice, serving as the head of strategy at Whedon Kennedy, New York, and one foot in the world of academia as the clinical assistant professor of marketing at the Ross School of Business, University of Michigan. He's a recipient of Advertising Age's 40 Under 40 Award and an inductee into the American Advertising Federation's Advertising Hall of Achievement. His strategies and creative contributions have led to the launch and success of Google's Real Tone technology, the Made in America Music Festival, and the Brooklyn Nets, among others. Prior to his advertising tenure, Marcus worked on iTunes and Nike sport music initiatives at Apple and ran digital strategy for Beyonce. Marcus holds a doctorate in marketing from Temple University, where he studied social contagion and meaning making. He received an MBA with an emphasis on strategic brand marketing from the University of Michigan, where he also earned his undergraduate degree in material science engineering. And Marcus currently lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Let's dive straight into the conversation. Marcus, thank you so much for being on the Brand Gravity Show. I'm excited for our conversation. Let's dive straight in. You just wrote a new book, For the Culture. What inspired you to write this book?
I think it was twofold. On one end, I found myself as a practitioner hearing over and over, let's get our idea out in the culture. Let's make sure it's informed in culture, what's going on in culture. And when I'd ask people, well, what do you mean exactly? I got a lot of different answers. And for me, if we don't have concrete language to define a thing, we're in trouble. Because A, how do we all work together if we can't concretely agree on what it means? And secondly, how can we operationalize it if we can't define it well? How do we use it? How do we harness it? So I kind of felt that ruminating in my mind and started thinking a lot about that as a practitioner. It kind of took me back to the second reason why I wrote the book, because I realized just how influential culture is. In fact, I would argue that there's no force more influential to human behavior than culture. And I realized this at a time that I didn't have the language to describe it. I'm born and raised in Detroit, and I did well in math and science. And in the 90s, if you did well in math and science and you were Black, you're going to be an engineer. And that's what I did. I went into engineering because that's what you're supposed to do. Those were the conventions and the expectations of people like me. And when I got to school, I realized this isn't really what I wanted to do, but I felt like I didn't have any choice. I felt like I had to do this. And I did, begrudgingly. I mean, I'm grateful at the end of the day. But at the time, it didn't feel fulfilling for me. And some 20 years later, while making this observation as a practitioner, is that it was culture that was influencing me, influencing the decisions I was making as an early, 20-something, but I didn't have any agency to do that. And it said to me, oh my goodness, this idea of culture not only influences how we think about our practice, but also how we think about the way that we show up in the world as a citizen of society. And the better we understand culture, the more agency we have to leverage its sway.
Yes. I loved reading through your book because I've been teaching people to approach branding from a psychological perspective. And I've been obsessed with the idea of identity since I was really young. I think my first password ever when I was like 11 was identity for whatever reason.
That's amazing.
But so your book helped me realize something that I knew intuitively, but how much culture is actually influencing our sense of identity. And as a result, our behaviors and all of these things. So to help people better understand what this is, how do you define culture?
So culture is one of those words that are very, very, very hard to define. And the scholars have been in discourse about this for ages, for over a century. But I look at culture through a Durkheimian lens. Emil Durkheim, one of the founding fathers of sociology, he says essentially that culture is the system of symbols, norms, and values that demarcate who we are and what the expectations of people like us might be. So it consists of the beliefs that we hold, that is the way we see the world, the truths that we hold of the world, the artifacts that are meaningful that we don, the behaviors that are normative, the rituals, the ceremony, the social norms, and the language that we use, so the code words, the interface of how we interact. The alchemy of those things make up our culture. And a more recent scholar, a guy named by the name of Raymond Williams, he says that culture is the realized meaning-making system. It's the way by which we make meaning. So that system of beliefs, artifacts, behaviors, and language, they become the inputs, the elements that translate the world for us, which ultimately informs how we show up in the world and what we do.
You have an incredible pedigree. You've worked with the most iconic brands that exist today, from Beyonce to everybody in between. Do you have a favorite campaign or brand where culture really played a strong role in how you strategized and executed?
I think the Brooklyn Nets probably is the one for me. Of the many campaigns I've worked on, I'm so grateful for all the opportunities I've had to sort of put this thinking in the world and also be informed by the world to shape this thinking. I think the Brooklyn Nets was it for me because it really subverts all the traditional wisdoms we have of marketing communications or marketing writ large. We think about marketing as how do we differentiate our product in the minds of people so that people consume. So we spend a lot of time thinking about value propositions, positioning statements. My razor's sharper, my battery life goes faster. My shampoo has more body, whatever that means. All right. And we have these things that we typically think are the driving impetus of what gets people to move. So if you take that and juxtapose it to the Brooklyn Nets, you see these things completely be out of sync. Brooklyn Nets was a team that was once the New Jersey Nets, that we were moving them from New Jersey to Brooklyn. I don't know if you know anything about New York or your listeners or New Yorkers. There's one thing that New Yorkers do not like. It's anything from New Jersey, except for like Billy Joel or Bon Jovi or Bruce Springsteen. Other than that, there's not a lot of love there. So you've got an export or an import rather into New York that New Yorkers inherently do not want. And then secondly, but the brand, the company was establishing an arena in the Atlantic Terminal area of Brooklyn, which was going to upseat a lot of residents, so there's a lot of agita there, a lot of friction. And to make matters worse, so you got a product people don't want. You've got some social unrest that's being catalyzed because of this thing. But also, we didn't know who the team was going to be. There's a free agency clause that happens when teams leave one region, one location to another. But we literally didn't know what the product was. So take that and think about it through marketing terms. You don't have apathy, you have disdain for your product. Secondly, it's going to create a lot of friction for people. Third, I don't even know what the product is. I can't even communicate the value propositions. For a marketer, you go, I can't do anything with this. What do you want me to do? So instead of focusing on the product or the brand, and by the way, the brand was not great because the New Jersey Nets hardly won anything. Like they never won a championship. It's all bad. We said, let's not focus on the product for a moment. Let's not focus on the brand. Let's focus on the people of Brooklyn. And what do we know about the people of Brooklyn? What we know about the culture of being a Brooklynite is that there is immense pride of being a Brooklynite. That saying in hip hop is Brooklyn in the house. Like that's a real thing, right? Like Brooklyn is so proud of themselves. So the idea was let's stoke that Brooklyn pride in a way that makes the Brooklyn Nets a receipt of identity. And how we're going to do this? We'll start a rivalry with someone who challenges Brooklyn's sort of superiority in the 5 boroughs of Brooklyn. And thankfully, there was a natural rival known as Manhattan. So we use this inherent tension between people, these cultural tensions that exist between people, to position the brand not as a value proposition rich offering, but rather a receipt of identity, a way by which Brooklynites could say, I'm from Brooklyn, to help them do what they already do, to help them realize the cultural characteristics, the cultural conventions of what it means to be a part of this community. When we did that with almost like no media dollars behind it, the success was unreal. And it said to me, the way we think about marketing is not flawed. Someone would say it's flawed. That's probably irresponsible, but I will say it's myopic. And if we can widen our aperture about what it means to go to market and why the market responds, i.e. why people move, the better we understand the underlying physics of human behavior, the more likely we are to influence it. And culture is the governing operating system of human behavior.
Yes, I love that story so much. And for those who are curious to hear that story in even more detail, I highly recommend the book you shared down to like the copywriting that you used on billboards and everything. And it was very well done. I loved this example so much. Okay, so if a brand visionary or CEO accepts that culture is incredibly important and that they need to align their brand to a prevailing culture to be accepted and to influence behavior, what next? How do they start this process?
Perfect question. So the first thing we start is, well, what's a brand? Right. And I love it. I mean, let's just get into branding. Brands are identifiable signifiers that conjure up thoughts and feelings in the minds of people. Right. They're vessels of meaning that conjure up thoughts and feelings, affects and cognitions within people in regards to or with regards to products, companies, institutions, organizations, and people. So we cannot talk about brand without talking about meaning. And what mediates meaning? Culture. So where do we start? Well, we start with, well, what does our brand intend to mean? Like, how do we see the world? What's our identity, right? What are the beliefs, the artifacts, behaviors, the language, the conventions of what it means to be fill in the blank brand, right? What do we stand for? How do we see the world? And then we say, okay, who sees the world like us? Who out there shares the same conviction, the same point of view of the world? Because what happens is that when we with people who see the world similarly, they consume not because of what it is, but because of who they are. In a lot of ways, I would argue that consumption is a cultural act. What we buy, what we wear, how we style our hair, if you have hair, what kind of car you drive, what computer you use, what devices you use, where you go to school, if you go to school, who you marry, if you marry, where you vacation, what you eat, how you sleep, where you bury the dead, if you bury the dead. All these things are byproducts of our cultural subscription. And if a brand, this vessel of meaning, signifies who I am, then the brand becomes a receipt of my identity. I use the brand to tell the world who I am. So once we identify who we are as a brand, we go, who's our congregation, our community, our tribe, our network of people who see the world similarly. And then we say, those are our people. That's what we're going to talk to. We may have customers who buy our thing, and that's fine, great, awesome. These folks right here. And we're going to target those folks. And how we're going to talk to them is we're going to preach the gospel. We're going to communicate the way we see the world so that people go, you know what? I feel the exact same way. Finally, someone said it. And they go use your marketing communication. They use your brand mark, your distinctive brand assets to communicate who they are to the world. Right. And like that is just unbelievably powerful. Now, it certainly goes against all our conventional wisdoms of what marketing communication is all about, what going to market is all about. But that's why science was invented to subvert, the things that feel like common sense. And the better we understand these things, the more agency we have to actually harness and leverage its power.
We're going to get right back to the interview. For the next few seconds, I'm going to share with you my Brand Clarity Collective and how it can help you grow your income and impact. If you're an entrepreneur who feels stuck or uncertain about what makes your brand stand out, then this is for you. The Brand Clarity Collective is a mastermind multiplied by mentorship. It's part online curriculum, part digital mastermind, and it's designed to help you get crystal clear brand clarity so you attract more perfect clients and grow your business. We have a thriving community of entrepreneurs who are all smart and driven. As a member of the collective, you get an all-access pass to all of my best branding courses, as well as access to our private community where you can connect with like-minded entrepreneurs and get feedback and support directly from me on our coaching calls. The Brand Clarity Collective is priced at just $297 per month, and after 6 months, you keep lifetime access to all of the courses. To learn more and to see if it's right for you, head over to my homepage at kayeputnam.com. There's a big section where you can click to learn more. I'll also include the link in the show notes wherever you are listening or watching. All right, let's get back. Yes, I want to highlight something that you just said because it was so profound when I read it. Your people are like a congregation who all believe similarly. It's not like the typical ideal client avatar or target audience. We're thinking in a completely different way, and it helps us reach people in a way that's actually meaningful. I loved that. One of the questions that came up as I was reading, so if several brands are all competing within the same cultural context, how do they differentiate from one another?
So the cultural context, you mean like the same people or?
If we're going after the same congregation.
Sure. So we're going after the same congregation. Now the differentiation comes in the distinctive assets and the value propositions. Right. Well, it's essentially like, and throughout the book, I used religious text because the early scholars, Durkheim, Weber, Marx, they studied culture by observing religion. Right. So it's no wonder why we use words like evangelize the brand, right? Because those things come from the religious text. But think about this with regards to a church, just for example. If I am a Christian and I go, okay, I'm a Baptist. Let's just say that I'm a Baptist, and there are 3 Baptist churches in my neighborhood. Which one do I go to? Well, I'm definitely not going to go to the Presbyterian church because I'm not that. Right. So I already found like my community. Now I find which one feels the best, which one resonates the most, which one, when they preach the gospel in this way, quite literally, I feel like, yeah, that's how I see the world. So it goes from like Nike believes that every human body is an athlete. So we're talking to athletes. Awesome. Well, how do you talk to athletes? So now that we may have the same congregation, the way Nike talks to athletes are different than the way that Under Armour talks to athletes, or different than the way that Adidas talks to athletes, right? Nike talks to athletes about realizing your best athletic self. Phil Knight would say that Nike is the voice that's telling you to keep going when you're running at 4 a.m. and it's dark and it's cold and it's wet. Nike's the person under the street lamp saying, keep going, Marcus. That's the gospel Nike preaches, that every human body is an athlete. So the only thing keeping you from realizing your best athletic self is you. On the other hand, Under Armour, they preach a gospel about the underdog. Still talking to athletes, but we're talking to the underdogs, right? The people who've been slept on, the people who've been looked over, passed over. Those are the people that Under Armour is trying to empower. And then Adidas, on the other hand, they're looking for the creators in athleticism. But these are the people who are reinventing their sport, reinventing their genre. And you've got 3 different brands, 3 different vessels of meaning who are communicating to the same congregation, but finding these tribes within them that are most akin to who the brand is, how the brand sees the world. So the people who wear those sneakers, wear their gear, use their technology, ascribe to their accessories, that these people use them as a way to communicate how they see the world, not just what the brand does.
Yes. Amazing. A lot of my audience sell B2B, and I love examples from consumer brands because they typically do the whole emotional branding so much better than B2B brands. But is there a difference between how B2B brands approach culture and assimilate with it versus one that is reaching consumers directly?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, B2B provides a different context, but what's the saying that it's not B2B is not B2C, it's P2P, it's people, right? It's still, the underlying physics is still based on who we are and how we cognate and how we behave because of the way that we cognate. The only difference is the context, right? The way I talk to someone at the bar would be different than the way I talk to someone in a sanctuary. If we go back to religious texts, right? Even when I talk to the exact same person, like you and I are talking, I'll use certain language. I'll behave differently. I dress differently because of what that context demands, like what the expectations and conventions are of that context. The same thing goes when it comes to B2B, right? I'm still Marcus when I leave the office. I'm still Marcus when I'm in the grocery store. I'm still Marcus when I'm scrolling through Instagram. I'm still Marcus when I'm going through Amazon, and I'm still governing the exact same operating system. The difference is the context. So we ask ourselves, okay, how do we talk to these people within this context? And we have to be understanding of the context. Now, that's the challenge for B2B marketers. And I work with the B2B too, but I empathize. That's the challenge, is that the culture, that is the context, in each of these organizations are unique. So when I'm talking to company A, I have to be mindful of their beliefs, their artifacts, behaviors, and language. So I'm talking to them like I'm one of them, like I see the world the way they do. And I talk to company B in a way that is more bespoke, more unique to their cultural conventions. Much like, use Nike's example again, just because it's such an easy one and it's salient, that Nike talks to athletes. That's their congregation. But they talk to swimmers differently than they talk to runners. Talk to fencers differently than they talk to gymnasts. They talk to footballers differently than they talk to basketballers, even though they're targeting the same congregation. So when we're doing B2B marketing, we got to say to this congregation of companies, these kinds of companies, here's how we see the world. Then we go, okay, when I talk to company A, I talk to them in this way. Company B, talk to them that way, but it's all within the same context. I mean, I think Patagonia is a pretty good example of this. Even though we know them as a B2C company, they do a lot of work, at least they used to. They would work with companies to do their company swag. But when Patagonia realized that these companies they were working with, that the way they saw the world and business, their book of business was antithetical to what Patagonia believed. So what did Patagonia do? Said, "Nah, we can't work with you." And you go, "Why would you much money?" And he says, "Because we don't see the world that way. It's not congruent with our worldview." And therefore, Patagonia said no. And the interesting part is that the more Patagonia does things that are against the conventions of marketing, their business gets bigger. It's just unbelievable.
I love Patagonia for that reason.
Yeah, so great.
The infamous "don't buy this jacket."
How amazing
campaign
is that? I mean, that is like the perfect antithesis to our traditional marketing approach. They're telling you, don't buy this thing. Do not. In fact, do something completely different. But if you have to buy a jacket, fine, buy this one, but please don't buy this one. And the thing is, someone sees that and go, "I love this company. They see the world the way I do." And you can have one fleece with one logo on it and the almost identical parody fleece right next to it. And if that parody fleece has Patagonia on it, it means more because brands are vessels of meaning.
Yes. Okay, so there's some interesting headlines happening right now. And you give an example kind of similar to this, but I think that it's different in the book when you talk about Nike supporting Kaepernick when he was kneeling at football games. And you talked about how Nike stood behind him and what that meant for the brand. Bud Light is experiencing a backlash as well for a decision that they made. How do brands decide when to comment or when to participate in a cultural movement? How do they know if it's in alignment with their brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. When do marketers on behalf of their brands decide to join the discourse? And I say, in my mind, it's you do it when you have something to say and be seen. I think oftentimes we have this sense of like, oh, this is what's popping, this is what's happening right now. I need to jump in this discourse so that I can be seen that I did this thing, and hopefully, prayerfully, inshallah, this ripple effect will happen and more people will buy, or people will think differently of me, or think highly of me. And I think that's quite performative in that way.
Yeah.
And not that performance is actually a bad thing. We all perform, as Irving Guffman would say, that we all are self-presenting. Shakespeare says all the world is a stage, and men or women are merely actors on said stage. So we're all sort of putting on a performance based on our identity, who we choose to play in this world. But I think that the best opportunities for brands to jump into this discourse is when they have something meaningful to say because of how they see the world. And you jump in when these things are in the crosshairs of your point of view. Nike, let's just use Nike because we've been talking about it so much, right? Nike can jump in on the Kaepernick thing because of their stance on athletes. Or Nike can jump in conversation about what it means to be an elite woman, the tennis player in a male-dominated sport, right? Like, you talk about, they have a point of view on failure, right? These things that seem to be outside of the realm of what they make, sneakers, footwear, accessories, technology, and the like, but they're able to weigh in on things because of their point of view on the world. But Nike isn't weighing in on a dental hygiene, like, and because they don't have a point of view, right? Like, and so you jump in when you have a point of view. I mean, think about what we're trying to do when it comes to brands. We're trying to make these emotional connections with people. So we anthropomorphize the brand. We make the brand feel human, right? So people can feel connected to it, because that's what we do. We connect it to humans, right? So we can use humanity, how we act as people, as a good metaphor, right? Would I jump in on a conversation I know nothing about? Probably not, right? I've never read on a thing. I never had a point of view on a thing. No one's like, hey, Marcus, what's your take on brick mortar? I don't know. It's so not up my alley, not because that's not my job, but rather I don't have a point of view on it. I think that's what brands need to focus on: who you are, how you see the world. And when exogenous shocks to the system happens in the world, and we are now entering the discourse to make meaning of it, we can say something meaningful that is full of meaning.
Yeah. You also present in the book a framework to think about the ethics of the meanings that you're making. Can you speak to that a little bit as well, your framework?
Yeah, it's something that I thought about when teaching at the Ross School of Business, University of Michigan. I would talk to students and they'll say, this is very helpful. We as practitioners, we want to be successful. However, they also want to be ethical. They want to be morally upright and make the best decisions, make the right decisions. And of course, right is subjective. It is culturally mediated. What we consider to be right or wrong is based on the beliefs that we hold, the ideologies that we hold dear. So I tell them that, like, I can't tell you what's right or wrong, because it's up to your meaning-making frames, how you see the world, how you navigate the world. But here's a tool that I use to try to make the best ethical decisions based on my moral compass and my cultural subscription. I call it IPO. I try to be cute because it's business school and IPO. Anyway, so IPO, it's intentionality, intentions, perspective, and outcomes. So I asked myself, what are my intentions in doing what I'm doing? Do I have good intentions? That is, do I mean well? Do I mean well for all constituents? That is, the company for which I work, maybe the client for which I'm in service of helping, the community in which we are operating, and the customer, the persons who are consuming, whether it's a product good or product service or something in the middle of that spectrum. So think about that. What are my intentions? Are my intentions good? Did I mean well? And that's an important thing to be mindful of, because we see ads, we see communications, we see activations and campaigns. We go, what were those people thinking? Goodness gracious, like, they completely played themselves. And I don't think that these people, because these are human beings who are in these companies saying, let's offend as many people as possible. I don't think that's the case at all. I think instead, they're operating from their own meaning frames, right? Their own intentionality. So that's the first, intentions. The second is perspective. It's not enough to have your own perspective of the world. You have to see the world in a way that's outside of yourself, right? We call that empathy, self-aware perspective taking. Right. And though I have all the great intentions of the world, if I have the perspective of someone else, I can look at how are these people going to interpret what I do. And though I meant well, knowing what I know of these people, they're not going to see it that way. So I should not do it. Right. There are a lot of things that I do at home, and, I mean well. My wife goes, why would you ever do this? And I go, oh, because I thought it would be. She's like, I don't see it that way. And if I were thinking about her, I try to do, love you, Alex. I try to do, see it from that perspective so that the outcomes, which is the third part, are more predictable. At the very least, are more likely to be congruent. So we have to think about our intentions, the perspective of others, and the outcomes. So like, I take my children, for instance, because I think about marketing, not just in going to market products. I go to market in effort to get people to move, trying to influence behavior. So take my children, for instance. I have the best intentions for them. But when I see something through their perspective, I go, George is not going to like that. Ivy's not going to be happy about that. However, the outcome is going to be worth it. It's going to be in their best interest. So I'm taking into account my intentionality, their perspective, and the potential outcomes. And that is the calculus that's informing my decisions, the behaviors that I take on. I think the same thing goes with marketers, with businesses, with companies, institutions, organizations, people, right? We start with what are our intentions? What are the perspective of the people that we are going to be serving or who will be impacted by this? And then we say, okay, so what are the potential outcomes? Is this going to help? And just to be totally transparent, as I look back at my career, I realized that though I made good decisions that had great outcomes for the companies or the brands I was servicing, it may not have been the best service for the people around me. You asked me like my favorite campaign. I go back to the Brooklyn Nets. Like I reverence that campaign because it really played out what I've learned as a practitioner and as a scholar. And it's a good case study that's evidence or suggests that these theories are plausible, and they're one of many proof points. But then when I also look back, I go, it served the Brooklyn Nets and it served basketball fans and it served a lot of people, but it also disenfranchised a lot of people. A lot of people were hurt by moving the Barclays Center into Brooklyn, right? So would I make those same decisions? Maybe not. Would I made better decisions? Absolutely. So much like culture, our ethics evolve as our meaning-making system evolves as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's incredibly useful, especially for people who have a voice in the market, in the world, and all brands do, hopefully. So bringing this back down, and this will be our final question, to the average entrepreneur who's running a small business, what would you love for them to take out of this conversation or out of your book? What are the action steps that you would love for them to take next?
The first is realizing the truth, is that everybody starts at zero. Everybody. Everyone starts with 0 fans, 0 subscribers, 0 customers, 0 downloads, 0 streams. Everyone starts at 0. So we can look at a Nike, an Apple, or a Beyonce and go, I don't have those kind of resources. I don't have that. And you're like, yeah, totally, 100%. Like they've been doing it for a lot longer than you have, likely. I mean, talk about 40 plus years with Nike. They've been doing it for a long time. But they started just like you. Apple started in a garage. Like Beyonce started in her backyard with her father. Like everyone starts at 0. So you're starting from the same starting point. The second thing is that, okay, so if we want to make this thing grow, it's not going to happen because we tell people about ourselves. Other people are going to tell people about you. That's how everything works. That is the network effect by which we do everything. Right? Rogers refers to this as the diffusion curve, that things diffuse in a population because people start to imitate. Right. So the idea is not how I talk to everybody who could benefit from my product, but talk to the people who are most inclined to move, the collective of the willing, if it were. And who are the people that are most inclined to move? The people who see the world the way you do, the people who are already moving, and they just go, oh, fam, like I've been feeling this way forever. Come with me. Right. And they go tell other people about the brand, not because of who you are, but because of who they are. So the idea is finding out who are the people who see the world the way we do. Who are we and who are they? Then the third part is go preach the gospel to them. Go door to door. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And I know that sounds kind of pedantic in some ways, but if you are like Beyonce can't go to door. She can't knock on people's doors because she would be flogged by everyone. It's impossible for her to do that. Just like a big politician, if everyone knows them, it's hard for them to go door to door. And actually, they can't make any mistakes either, or very few mistakes. But when you're just starting door to door, saying, hey, Here's how I see the world. Do you see it like I do? And you can have much more intimate conversations with them. And then you can arm those people with perspective, with language, with artifacts, cultural characteristics that help those people go evangelize on your behalf. And it begins to propagate within a population, which leads to the last thing that I would recommend is that you got to be patient. Brands, meaning takes time to develop, right? You don't meet someone on the street and say, "Hey, I'm Marcus, would you marry me?" People go, "What?" No, leave me alone, right? Or if your friend goes on a first date and comes back and like, "I think I'm in love. We just got engaged." You go, "Whew, that ain't going to work," because you know that trust requires more time. And the same thing goes here. We're trying to build relationships, and relationships take time. They take lightweight interactions over a period of time, right? And the way it works is that I meet you, I go, "Oh, I think you're pretty, or I think you're smart, or I think you're nice. We'll love to get coffee." Then maybe you get dinner, and then maybe later you go on. Maybe later we fall in love, and then your friends meet my friends. We could be friends, do this every weekend. Like, that's how relationships are built. So we've got to be patient, give ourselves some grace, and understand that people move on the basis of one simple question: do people like me do something like this? The answer is yes, do it. The answer is no, we don't. That is the antecedent of culture. And this, my friends, I think is one of the most powerful things that we can harness as an entrepreneur.
Mic drop. Amazing. Marcus, thank you so much. We barely scratched the surface of the wealth of wisdom, stories, and examples that you share in your book For the Culture. I appreciate you making the time and sharing a bit of this with us today. You're amazing.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Brand Gravity Show. I hope you enjoyed and benefited from Dr. Collins' genius as much as I did. If you found value in this conversation, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you in advance. It helps other smart humans like yourself find this show. It helps us bring on even more incredible guests like Dr. Collins, and I appreciate it so very much. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.